Hello again, everyone. It's time again for another channel update here, because it feels like it's been quite a while, because there's a lot of things been going on that I need to update you guys about that's just kind of in flux here, and some other things are coming up and all the other random weird kind of crap I talk about every time we do these things. But I guess I'll first mention the fact that I did finish a video on Alien vs. Predator, full review of it. But unfortunately, when I uploaded it on Saturday, the entire thing got caught by the Content ID system, and it currently has a copyright thing on it. I uploaded it, I got a claim on it, then I tried to edit it a little bit, trying to fix it up a little bit, but then every time I upload the thing, it would grab another piece of the video that thinks is an infraction or something else like that. So it drove me into a really, really bad point, and I just decided, okay, I can't keep doing this. This went on all for like half a day or whatnot, me trying to deal with this whole thing, hours and hours. And so I just decided, well, I'm just going to have to put in, escalate the thing from the dispute up to the appeals process, which takes 7 days, and put all the things into the form and all the other shit and everything. So right now, it's just sitting there. So the fact is, it was claimed by Fox, or 20th Century Studios specifically. And so they've got 7 days to respond to the thing, and it looks like they're just going to let it sit there and not do anything. So probably going to just have to wait until Saturday night when the thing gets automatically released, and then release it maybe Sunday. All kinds of things. So that really drove me into a really bad state of affairs on Saturday, because I took this extended weekend off. So I was going to finish. I was already behind schedule when I wanted to get the video done. I wanted to get it done at least the night before, and I couldn't do it because the process of putting together the synopsis portion of the videos always takes a lot longer than I wanted to, because it takes a long time to write the thing out. Because I'd been working on writing it out for like a day or so, but then I had to record the thing, then I had to get it into the Final Cut Pro, then I usually go back and maybe re-record some bits that don't come out quite as clearly, and then I have to edit the audio, then I have to edit the video, then I have to add the music into it. So it's a very lengthy process that I don't really enjoy, but it's necessary for the video. And so it took longer to get done on Saturday. Then I got to push it to publish it online as we went to dinner or whatnot. Then it came back with a copyright thing, and all this other shit happened. It just really, really bad night. Really bad night. So I'm just trying to let it kind of, it irks me a little bit every day, just going back and double checking it. And it's like, oh yeah, it's still sitting there, copyright thing, and not going anywhere. But I'm just trying not to focus on it so much. But anyway, like that. So it's going to come out eventually. I just got to wait for this damn 7-day thing to pass, and we'll be golden by that point in time. Whatever. But in terms of, like, I had a lot of stuff that come up on the channel. I did the retro video series thing on Ransom. We got some commentaries out for, I don't know what the hell. We did Night of the Living Dead. We did Dark Knight Rises, and various other things. But the stuff that's coming up soon. Tomorrow night, me and Steve are getting back together to record more stuff. We're going to do commentaries for Happy Death Day, as someone requested recently. And I had to track down a copy of this, because I've never seen it before and stuff like that. But he talked me into it. After we did Dark Knight Rises, which was such a goddamn slog of us going through a film that was 2 hours, 45 minutes that we didn't really enjoy, and stuff like that. It's like, okay, we just need some short, enjoyable, fun stuff. So I buckled in, and we're going to do fucking Leprechaun. Just the first one. Because, like, oh, it's St. Patrick's Day coming up. We should just do Leprechaun. It's like, whatever, fine, sure, go for it. Weird thing on this fucking DVD, this 4-film DVD, it was like it was $5 over at FY used. So I grabbed it, because whatever, apparently they're all up on Peacock right now, but we'll do the commentary off the disc or whatnot, because last time we fucked around with Peacock, weird things were happening, and last couple of things I was watching on Peacock, the video kept stuttering here and there. I don't want to play with things on that regard. But I put the damn DVD, which is a 4x3 master. It's just a 4x3 thing. There's no widescreen. When I put it in my Blu-ray player, the thing does weird things. First, it automatically loads into Leprechaun 2. Then you have to jump over to the menu and switch over to Leprechaun 1. But when I go to Leprechaun 1, the thing zooms it into cropping it down to 16:9, and I couldn't get the thing for the life of me to fix it whatsoever. So I had to go back to my DVD player to get the play properly. Very weird stuff from Lionsgate. What the hell they're doing with these fucking discs and whatnot. Apparently the Blu-ray for Leprechaun, they did some weird type of things in that regard. In terms of, like, it's a nice HD scan to a certain degree. It could be improved, but the fact is, the thing was horizontally stretched. It's not the proper geometry for the 16:9 widescreen. it's very weird how they did this, because I looked at comparisons. There's like a I think it's like a German Blu-ray that has the same master, but they adjusted it properly, so there's actually pillar blocks on the side, so it's still not the theatrical aspect ratio. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. No clue. That's the version that's up on Peacock if you want to take a look at it. Sometimes it's not egregiously distracting, but I can definitely notice it from time to time in that regard. But regardless of whatnot, we'll do it off of the DVD and stuff like that, and we'll get on with it. Who knows, whatever, because I was going to waste like $20-30 on the fucking Blu-ray set, because you go and get the original Hop Leprechaun on Blu-ray when you buy the complete Blu-ray franchise set. I wasn't going to bother with that, so I just grabbed the $5 DVD. That's well enough for me. But like I said, we're also doing Happy Death Day, because someone requested it, and Steve said, yeah, cool, whatnot. So, like, that's nice fun. That's fun. We need some fun stuff. No more 3-hour movies. 3-hour movies like It Chapter 2 or Dark Knight Rises that we don't really enjoy so much of what we're doing. Let's get some nice, short, fun type of things going on in that regard. 90 minutes to 2-hour stuff, we'll probably stick in that range for a very long time now. So we don't have anything, I think, on our schedule or slates or anything like that that's going to be very, very long type of films anymore. So they'll probably get a little bit more traction in that regard, because the Dark Knight Rises one didn't perform terribly well, probably because it was such a long movie, not as engaging in terms of like a very fun type of energetic type of things. We had a lot of things to talk about it, but I'll circle back around to that in due time and whatnot, because there's other things to talk about that stemmed out from that point. But so after AVP video gets up, because I figure like, okay, this thing's in copyright purgatory right now. I'm not going to even deal with going forward with whatever the hell the next video is until that thing is out, and I can put that behind me, and we got some commentaries that can fill in a little more gaps in that regard. The way it was originally going to go, I was going to do a retro video series episode on the various cuts of the original Highlander, because there's 3 or 4 different versions of the film that are out there. One that was only like screened once and stuff like that. There's a lot of complicated stuff. And then after that, I was going to do this entire like retrospective of the first 3 John Wick films, because I did reviews of the first 2 when they first came out. Never did a review on the 3rd one, and I really wanted to update my thoughts on the whole things going into the 4th one. But with the short amount of time, I have about 2 weeks before the next John Wick film comes out. I need to get that video out beforehand. So I was kind of looking more towards doing the Highlander one. That's going to take a lot more time than I have to get up to different things here. So I'll probably move the John Wick thing up a little bit, try to get that focus and get that going. And then I'll do the Highlander thing afterwards, where I don't have that sort of like deadline of release date of John Wick 4 coming up in about 2 weeks. So I'm going to be seeing that. I won't be doing, I guess I'll have to be doing a review of it. We'll figure out where that goes in my schedule and whatnot, because it's almost 3 hours long talking about these different things. But thankfully, the Thursday showtime started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I got a 3 o'clock in the afternoon runtime. Of course, it's at Adobe Cinema, so it's still expensive ticket. But it'll be 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I can get home by like 6:30 or something else like that, depending on how many trailers they stick ahead of the damn thing. 6:30, 7 o'clock, so I can still have some time to maybe sort out my thoughts, maybe shoot the video, probably get it edited the next day. But then that next day, I'm actually going to see Trent's band Hemi in the city, because I haven't seen these guys in like a year and a half. So Trent invited me. I'm going to go see them that night. So be a bit of a ways getting up to the whole thing. But hopefully I can organize thoughts and put things together for a video. Otherwise, I have to push things a little bit further off in terms of the post-production, the whole thing, and get it off maybe Saturday, Sunday, or whatnot, here, there, and everywhere. But I'll eventually get around to that. So hopefully I'm going to work on the John Wick thing, and then I'll move on to the Highlander Retro Video Series episode after that and figure out where that lands in there. So a lot more research to do in the Highlander stuff. I got to kind of figure out, because I'm doing basically the stuff I did before with the franchise retrospective videos. I haven't done it like 6 years since I did the Evil Dead one, but I'm going to try to figure out a little bit of a different approach to it, a different way to structure it, kind of get a little bit more compact and focused on that certain regard. So we're not talking about every single aspect of the entire film, so it's like a 90-minute video or something else like that. So I'm going to find a way to be as succinct as possible and boil things down as much as I can. So it's going to take a little extra kind of pre-planning to figure out exactly how I'm structuring things out and not get too long-winded about everything. So that's the sort of thing to think about. Work on that in that regard. So I've got some media pickups and also got some other stuff I'm going to be doing afterwards. I'll talk more about that afterwards. But so we got 2 commentaries coming up, recording tomorrow night. I'm going to see the new Scream film tonight. So it's a couple hours from now, I'll be going to see that. So I will probably like tweet out or at least put some stuff on like the community page here as like general impressions of the film. But clearly, probably Steve and I will probably eventually do a commentary of it when it gets on Blu-ray, probably summer or fall or something else like that, see where it fits in with everything, and even enough time to breathe for everyone to kind of have seen it and catch up and be ready for it and stuff like that. So I'm sure Steve will eventually see it or whatnot, either in the theater or at home or whatnot. But so I'll get some thoughts out there that's spoiler free, but not doing a video on it. I'll just have type up some things or whatnot, let you guys know what I generally thought about the whole thing, stuff like that. But speaking of such things, I did finally pick up in the recent times, I did pick up the 4K of Scream 2. I haven't watched it yet. I checked a few comparisons online, watched a little bit of footage and whatnot, but I wanted to go and sit down and rewatch the entire franchise before I saw the new one, but I just didn't have the time for it and stuff like that, so unfortunately I couldn't get up to that. But so I grabbed this up and everything. It was about $20 at Best Buy, so I think I grabbed it at Best Buy. Yeah, so just because where was I think it was when we were doing the commentary for the last one. I wanted to go and kind of like rewatch the entire franchise back then as well. Rewatched the first one on the 4K, then I put in the old Blu-ray of Scream 2, and like, man, this looks terrible. I just had to turn it off. I couldn't watch it back to back with the beautiful 4K of the first one and the crusty old master of the second one. So unfortunately they didn't, from what I've heard, I didn't double check it myself, but everyone says they did not do a remaster on the regular 1080p disc. It's only on the 4K, so they just use the same old one here. So that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate on that regard. But just so they had all the special features and whatnot, so they decided not to do a remaster on the regular 1080p disc on that regard. So if you're looking for the remaster, you'll have to have 4K in that regard, or you're still watching the old ugly looking master in that regard that's over sharpened and stuff like that is not in the best shape. So there's that. But I did take the time the other day because, again, here's where my week went. I had the entire debacle on Saturday dealing with the YouTube stuff, and I figured, you know what, the video is done. There's nothing else I can do about it. I'm just going to take the next day or two and just relax a lot. Do a lot of good things. There's certain things I'll talk about on Sunday that I did that's involved with the other stuff over here. But on Monday, I finally sat down, took the time, and watched my 4K of Top Gun Maverick. And I got the Steelbook finally. It came back in stock on Amazon. And I jumped on it immediately. I was so happy it came back in because look how good this look of this looks so beautiful to me. This entire packaging just looks gorgeous. This really I just wanted to have this. Once I saw this, compared to the regular one, which has a little bit more of a, not a great looking poster, artwork and stuff like that, I just knew I wanted this one. It looks so good. I had things on saved searches on eBay giving me notifications every night of new people listing the thing. Of course, they're all grossly overpriced. Someone was like, "Oh, you're not getting the 1080p disc. I can't guarantee you're getting the digital copy." It's like, well, why am I paying an extra cost for this damn thing when you've kind of cannibalized the rest of the damn shit? We want to give me the case and the 4K disc. Give me everything if you're going to fucking charge me up the ass for the thing. So eventually I got it for the proper about $35 price or whatnot. So it's like, I watched this thing. But I watched this thing the other day, and fuck, the movie's so fantastic. Absolutely just gorgeously awesome movie. And Steve finally sat down because the Oscars are coming up. It got nominated for Best Picture, and being the Oscar guy he is, he wanted to make sure he saw as many of the Best Picture nominees beforehand as possible. Still doesn't like the first one. I kind of concur that the first Top Gun is not great. It's got a lot of like thin things in the plot and a lot of things with the chemistry of McGillis and Cruise aren't great. The script isn't the solidest thing possible, but he watched Maverick, I think, last night, and he was absolutely fantastically blown away. He loved it. So it was a little bit down on something that he has prejudice about the first film, kind of to dictate that he would not see the second one in theaters or anything like that, but he finally sat down and watched it. Really was blown away and just blew me away all over again. I had not seen it since opening weekend. I never got back out to the theater to see it, and I kept waiting and waiting for the Steelbook to come back in stock, and I'm just flabbergasted in that regard. I watched it in Dolby Vision, had absolutely no problems with the entire disc. sometimes from Paramount stuff, I've had to tweak my setup in terms of like what inputs on the TV I'm using and whatnot, and what the settings I'm using on the Blu-ray player. This played absolutely without a flaw in my regard, and this sound mix is just incredible. Awesome type of stuff. So I almost kind of like, if anything, I want this thing to win like best sound mixing if it's up for that. I'd have to think so. I think so. I'm also pulling for maybe visual effects. So no, probably Avatar's probably going to win it, but the fact that these are so seamless, almost all the effects in the thing are just gorgeously seamless. Like there's stuff on Twitter and probably YouTube and whatnot showing like stuff, shots in the entire film that you don't think the thing is just all practical photography or whatnot, but there's actually various CGI elements all over the place when they're in the cockpits and stuff like that. It's like, never would have even guessed, because it's all completely seamless. So I'm pulling for a couple of things in that regard. So hopefully it's probably going to win at least a couple of things. It's got to win something, man. But moving on to a couple other things. When I did that video on the Madeline Stowe flick Blink at the beginning of the year, kind of got on the kick or whatnot and thinking about things here and there, looking at different things, and I grabbed up Last Mohicans because she's in the film and stuff like that, and I checked out a couple of clips from it online. It's like, yeah, I previously had it on DVD. I never got around to watching it. I sold it off. And I was like, I'm a big enough man, kind of fanatic to a certain degree. I'll put it into my collection. I'll eventually give it another go. See if it can pique my interest in that regard. We talked a slight bit about Mohicans on something recently. I'm not entirely certain. Something at the last leg of last year or whatnot. I don't know if it was Poseidon Adventure, something I would have tied into something somewhere. I don't know. We were talking about Daniel Day-Lewis at some point in time or whatnot, but regardless of that, I grabbed this up. For everything I've seen in terms of like the master on this thing, it looks absolutely fantastic. I'm sure a 4K would look brilliant, but still a matter of, I think there's an Australian release that has one of the other cuts of the film. I think there's the theatrical cut, there's a extended cut, then there's this definitive director's edition. So I think there's one in Australia that actually has a Blu-ray of the original theatrical version. So the second one in there, I think, was only put out in like VHS and Laserdisc, stuff like that. I don't think it ever hit DVD in that regard. Might have. I don't know. I can't keep track so much about that, but it's got a nice bevy of bonus features, commentary from Man, and a new featurette that they put together back in the day. So I figured, what the hell, grab that. And some stuff that's kind of like thrown up on certain things, like we've never figured out where to land Gremlins 2 in a schedule, because we're never like, let's do it now, or do it here, or do anything like that. We never hit like an anniversary date that seems like, yeah, we should do it right at this point in time. It's always been kind of batted around for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now, and we just never really kind of cement a point to really do it. So I did sell off my DVD version, and the weirdest thing was I kept looking out to get the Blu-ray. But the weird thing is, buying Gremlins 2 on its own is more expensive than buying either the 3-pack that contains Gremlins, Gremlins 2, and Goonies, or simply this 2-pack with just the original film and number 2. But I already have the 4K of the first one, so it kept bothering me. It's like, okay, well, what the fuck? Why am I going to pay extra to just buy the single one? And what I don't know what the hell the deal is with the pricing on this whole thing. Is like, why is this cheaper than just buying this one on its own? I don't understand it. No clue. But eventually, sometime, I don't know when, it's on our maybe list. Maybe we'll get around to it. We're out of options. I don't know. It just never really clicks into place. Like, yeah, it seems like a good time, or there's some kind of something to capitalize on, or anything like that. So I don't know. So we'll figure it out. But at least now I have the Blu-ray upgrade from the DVD or whatnot, and here and there and everywhere. But some other things I grabbed up. So I did grab up the new slipcase edition of Event Horizon on 4K. Haven't watched it yet, but they had the Steelbook one up. I never liked the artwork on it. It just wasn't appealing to me. So I waited till they put out the slipcover one at the end of January. And I kind of like this. It's a little bit more reminiscent of the actual poster art from the film. I think it's probably close to one of the poster arts I used, kind of a little bit modified to a certain degree, but looks really, really nice. And I like it a lot better than the packaging on the Scream Factory one, which I have not gotten rid of. I actually took because the 1080p disc inside this set is actually just the old Blu-ray with the old master or whatnot. So I figured, yeah, I'll just throw the Scream Factory one in here with the 4K so I can continue to have the remastered version of it if I ever need to pull footage from it from another video. I thought maybe that'd be the AVP one, but all I did was actually grab the HD trailer off of it and use footage from that, but it's still good to kind of keep that stuff around. That's why I kind of like having a remastered version with the 4K on the regular Blu-ray, so if I ever need something, I have a nice quality version of it to kind of use for the videos, stuff like that. So, stuff like that. Never really want to lose a 1080p Blu-ray when there's a 4K in that regard, in case I ever have to use it for a video. I still have a source to pull it from, stuff like that. So, another Paramount release and stuff like that. I think this had, Dolby Vision, Dolby, not Atmos, but it does have a 5.1 Dolby True HD track. Dolby True HD track, which I think is the same one from the old Blu-ray. The Screen Factory one did re-encode it as DTS Master Audio with a higher bit rate, so might get a little extra bang for your buck out of the Screen Factory one, but I think they're both the same transfer, but obviously the HDR, Dolby Vision, stuff like that would definitely enhance the 4K on this thing much further, so I was very much pleased to grab it. I kind of forgot when it was coming out to a certain degree, but I think I went over, I don't know if I grabbed this at Amazon or Best Buy or whatnot, but I was really glad to just finally grab it up and kind of go off in that guard. I was, like I said, I was considering to kind of maybe sell out the Screen Factory, but because I don't really care for much the new bonus features. They weren't all that interesting in that regard. I would never have much of a reason to go back to them, since I've already done a proper review of the film. I did the review of the Screen Factory edition. I don't really have much use to do like a full thing with bonus features, but if I ever need footage direct from the film, that would be a nice thing to hold on to, so I don't have to use the old master, which looks a little less than excellent. There's something else I finally upgraded from DVD. So I was kind of looking at it for quite a while now. This DC animated movie was did a review of this on way back in the day. But Batman Under the Red Hood, really good adaptation of the comic story with a few alterations here and there just to kind of make it a little bit more self-contained and some other aspects here and there. But I think it's still a really good piece of work. I thought I had redeemed an HD digital copy off the DVD I had. I went back in my libraries, I couldn't find it anywhere. I swear to Christ, there was a code in there. I redeemed it maybe 2 years ago or something else like that. Years after I actually got the DVD, but I thought I had redeemed it, but it wasn't there anymore. So I decided, let's just snag out the Blu-ray and kind of go off in that regard. So good thing on that. And haven't gone off and rewatched it yet, but it's kind of a tie-in to another thing here, because we were getting up to doing the Dark Knight Rises thing, and obviously if you've listened to at least part of the commentary, you know I had a lot of things to say about the kind of source material they took a lot of the elements of the story from, like Nightfall and stuff like that. And going up to that entire commentary, I figure like a lot of critical things I had on my mind about the entire film from back in the day and more recent, more assessments, stuff like that. I felt it'd be kind of good to go back into some research, some actual Batman comic stories to get a sense of the different criticisms I have against the film and have some things to back it up in that regard to make sure all my criticisms felt valid. And I actually started rereading a lot of comics. I actually went back into my entire collection of stuff where maybe about 6 months ago I was kind of thinking about selling all the stuff off. I was real like, I don't read these anymore. They've been sitting around for years. I'm not doing anything with them. I'm not reading comics anymore. But I want to give thanks to that film for one reason or another. It actually gave me a motivation to get back into reading this stuff. And I've actually bought some new stuff recently. And there's a lot of stuff from my collection that I actually went back and read. And kind of move a few things around here that's a little bit in the way. But one of the main things first thing I did kind of go back and read was the Scott Snyder storyline that he did right at the beginning of the New 52 reboot or whatnot back in 2011. Which is the entire Court of Owls storyline, where I have most of the thing. I got all the stuff from the main Batman stuff. There's some additional tie-ins when they did this short event inside of it called the Night of Owls or whatnot. Where there's other stuff from like Nightwing, Birds of Prey, Robin, stuff like that here and there. So I had a few of the tie-ins from like Nightwing, and I think it was a few other things, Detective Comics and Batman and Robin. So there's a few other ones I had that tied into the whole thing, but I didn't have all of them. And I thought maybe I can track the other ones down if ever I have an inkling to go back and do it to a certain degree. But here and there, and everywhere, I read through this entire thing all over again, because this was the last arc I read through right before I kind of just didn't have the finances to keep up with comics anymore back in like 2011, 2012. And this thing was still fantastic. I still completely enjoyed the art style in this whole thing, the entire way of just telling the story, the psychological aspects of the characters. So many interesting things in this regard. I mean, some really beautiful artwork, Batcave, and just, it was such a really good, reflective story about Batman and his relationship with Gotham and things that shed more light on the past of Gotham and Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson and various other things. Really good stuff. It has James Gordon, it's got Harvey Bullock in the whole thing, it has Nightwing and all these other characters in it. I just felt it was a really solid storyline still to this day that comes off extremely well. I just thought, again, the art style, I absolutely loved it. Greg Capullo, really, really good stuff. He's still doing stuff today that looks really fantastic. I looked into it. And just like, I dug the entire vibe of it. All of it. I love how this thing was, to the point where I bought the trade paperbacks of Scott Snyder's follow-up story, which maybe some people don't have as hot of a thing about, but the Death of the Family storyline, which I have not read through yet. I bought the main thing and the trade paperback of all the tie-ins. Because apparently there's like, not a direct reading. It's not like you probably can read just through this whole thing and get the main line story, but there's like other issues from like Catwoman, probably like Nightwing and Robin and stuff like that. It kind of bounced back and forth from the main line into this one and kind of back and forth, in and out. So I'll probably have to jump in and out and everything. The tie-ins are thicker than the main line story thing. So I was just so hot on this thing and how well it was written and the style of it all and everything like that. I just felt like, yeah, I want to kind of grab up the next chapter they put together for the whole thing and get through that as well. So, because I started reading through some other stuff, some other Batman arcs and whatnot. I read the debut arc where they brought in Damian Wayne, which was written by Grant Morrison. I was like, I wasn't quite, it was like the first 4-issue arc of the whole thing. Wasn't quite as taken with it. I felt a little too quippy in a certain way for Batman. The dialogue was a little too smart-assy to a certain degree or something like that. It just felt a little off in that regard, too much like popcorn action movie quips and whatnot here and there, and it felt a little light on the story to a certain degree. So I wasn't as taken with that. I read like the first issue of the one where Paul Dini, who worked on Batman the Animated Series, he had a line of ones, I think it was either the mainline Batman or the Detective Comics or whatnot, but he had a run on that one of those books. It was much more like episodic type of things, just like one and done type of things, not kind of like long stretching arcs or whatnot. So I kind of read the first one, I was like, that feels kind of close to like a short 22-minute episode type of thing. There's not like as huge of a stakes or as much of a big sort of development in the whole thing, but it feels like it's still kind of a pertinent type of story being told to a certain degree that has a little bit of a meaning to it in a certain way. But I actually went over to this one from, I believe it was James Robinson, that was the face-to-face storyline, which was right after, I think it was the Infinite Crisis, then they did this 1 year later thing, and then I have some other things. I have the entire run of the original 52 comic, which was a weekly series kind of detailing this whole year of like when Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman just kind of disappear from the scene. You know, there's all these other heroes kind of step up, which is like Booster Gold and Elongated Man. You get some stuff with Black Adam in there, various other characters. I loved that thing when I read it back in the day. I went to the comic shop every single week, and almost every single week picked up the new issues. I had the entire run still. So this was kind of like 1 year after. So this was happening kind of concurrently with that storyline, kind of filling in the blanks. So they jumped everything 1 year later, and this was the first storyline they had. Actually, for some reason, I didn't have the first issue of it. So I had to go out looking for it. Clearly, I ended up finding it, and it was, obviously, face-to-face kind of like alludes to something with Two-Face, because apparently at this point in time, Harvey Dent had kind of gotten his entire face fixed and apparently kind of supposedly rehabilitated, where Batman kind of left Gotham in his hands while he disappeared for about a year or so. And so kind of goes off in certain psychological directions with the entire character of Harvey Dent that I wasn't quite as impressed with the art style and the whole thing. There's some moments that look really fantastic. I was like, it doesn't look quite as intriguing to me as a certain way as it could. Certain way they just kind of draw Batman to a certain degree. It looked a little blasé to me to a certain degree, but But it was kind of a nice read in that regard. Nothing too challenging. It was kind of a nice type of thing. But it starts out in Detective Comics 187, and it kind of bounces back and forth between Detective Comics and the main Batman book at that point in time. So they're kind of jumping it off right off the bat in that regard for the 1 year later storyline to get everything caught up on the books, stuff like that. So kind of nice type of thing. It's an 8-issue arc or whatnot. But you could, I don't know. I don't know if there's a trade or whatnot. Maybe, I don't know. I have no clue. But kind of a nice type of thing. I did start rereading the Hush storyline. It was it was drawn by Jim Lee. I don't recall the writer or whatnot, but I started rereading part of it, and then I kind of jumped off and kind of watched someone's video kind of recapping the rest of the whole thing. So it was kind of a nice type of thing. It was kind of a nice storyline that just kind of brings up all of the Batman rogues gallery in that regard towards a certain mystery that's going on. If you've seen the animated version, you should go and read the comics version because they change a whole lot. Like severely change a lot going into that animated movie. So the original storyline is much more favorable to a lot of degrees. So go back and look into it. It's more of a much longer arc to a certain degree, much longer type of thing. You got all these characters in the whole thing, kind of popping up in one issue to the next here and there or whatnot. But it's still kind of a good storyline. But I kind of like wanted to end up watching someone else's videos on certain things or whatnot. So I kind of like sat down and watched it and didn't read the rest of the arc. But kind of moving off to a slightly different type of thing where I'll jump back into Bat books and whatnot. But I actually have, including all variant covers of the Dreamwave Productions original Transformers miniseries. Because look at that fantastic cover with Optimus Prime and Megatron there. Look at that. I have, like I said, every variant cover. This is a 6-issue arc, and there's a lot of variant covers in this thing. I bought every single one of them at the time. Unbelievable. I'm not usually that type of guy, but clearly I was so jazzed up for this entire thing. And plus I have I didn't reread the preview comic because I thought it was just like maybe an excerpt from this thing, but apparently it is kind of a prologue setup type of thing. I didn't read through it, but I read through this entire thing again. Like, it's a nice sort of like pick up again from G1. I don't know exactly what continuity they were directly kind of referencing because this is back in, like, I think, 2002. So maybe still try and fit the Transformers, the movie, which takes place in 2005, into the whole thing, but you don't really know because obviously they're probably stemming off the entire own sort of continuity down the line for the Dreamwave stuff, which apparently kind of ended badly because the company was a bit mismanaged to a certain degree, so there are a lot of hanging threads on storylines that never got resolved before they got picked up by IDW. And now IDW does not have the license anymore, so we're still waiting to see who's going to grab up more Transformers rights for comics and maybe start into a brand new continuity on that whole thing. But read through it in a second, and like I said, it's a really nice setup for stuff like certain things. Like there's a whole storyline where like the Decepticons finally get defeated and they're going to be transported back to Cybertron by the Autobots on the new Ark spaceship and whatnot, but then the thing explodes and the entire kind of like government conspiracy type of thing is going on the whole thing, where they kind of repurpose or reprogram to do sort of like terrorist actions to a certain degree. And you can see definitely the post 9/11 sort of elements to that degree. There's a lot of stuff in that regard and looking at sacrifices and heroism, stuff like that in a different light in that regard. So still a good read, but you can definitely see those elements that are very much at that height of that sort of sensibility and whatnot, that sort of reactionary quality in the public consciousness in that regard and how they wrote it, but still a good thing. So if you're ever find those, I don't know. I'm sure they did get republished, but I don't know if they're currently available anywhere because obviously IDW doesn't have any publishing rights anymore, so that's all up in different ways. So other thing is I went to Half Price Books on Sunday, and I actually found the animated movie comic book adaptation. It's only about $9 or whatnot. I felt like maybe getting it. I kept thinking about it throughout the day. I was like, I'd probably read it once and not pick it up ever again. But maybe if ever I do a video on the film, but I've kind of batted that back and forth because, like, I don't know. I really don't know. I feel it's more towards like commentary if I got someone else that's more familiar with Transformers stuff. I could do something else with that. I don't know. It's not really anything going anywhere, but it was tempting at that point in time. But it's a nice type of thing. I've got other ones from the Dreamwave line. I've got a whole bunch of things from the Armada storyline. It's a little disjointed in terms of like there's some issues I don't have in there, here, there, whatnot. I got the first couple of them of the the first War Within thing, which kind of like tells like the prelude to the Cybertronian War, stuff like that. So I'll probably get into reading a little bit of that just to kind of like tide me over till there's something new going on in that regard. Don't know. There's been no announcements on anyone grabbing up the license or anything like that. I don't know who might grab it. I know Marvel might grab it. I don't know who else, because they used to have it back in the day, back at the 80s or whatnot, in the 90s. Who knows where they're going to land? Lord knows in that regard. But like I said, I did grab up some others. I did grab up stuff because on Sunday I decided I'm going to go out and just explore and grab some stuff up and just have a day off to enjoy things. I went to one comic shop, found something I thought about grabbing. I was holding on to it for a while. I thought I was looking at the pages. I really wasn't. The art style looked a little too all over the place for me. Just sort of like there's way too much. It feels too cluttered. It feels too much. I don't think I'll quite grab a hold of this, so I kind of put it back. It was kind of. I looked at a couple of comic stores in the area, and I was like, oh, the one that's closest to me is very, very small and very, very cramped. Not easy to find a lot of things. And I was like, maybe something in a clinch or whatnot might work out. Then I checked out another one. Then I checked out another one. And I checked out another one that was closer to work. And the one that was closest to work was kind of the one I saw on Sunday. It was kind of like the best kind of one I found, whatnot, in terms of like space and options, stuff like that. But eventually went back closer to where I used to live, which is about an hour away or whatnot. But this one was of the same chain I used to go to for years and years, and like I absolutely loved going there. This time, I loved going there. There's something different about this chain to a certain degree. The attitude, the people who work there are different from all the other places I went to recently, because I would overhear conversations in these other places of people like grumbling about things in comics and like, oh, this, that, and the other thing, and not being very. They weren't kind of having a positive attitude when you have this air or atmosphere in the entire store. When I went back to this one called Amazing Fantasy Books and Comics, every time I go to one of these places, the staff is friendly, everyone's upbeat, they're positive, they're having a lot of just fun conversations, stuff like that. It's much stronger, better vibe to walk into that makes you conducive to wanting to be there. And so I went to this other one I went to, and it's like, it's great being there. I actually saw one of the great things I saw, because my friend Dan Doherty, who I haven't mentioned in years, I reconnected with him at C2E2 2012, and he gave me a signed copy of, I think I left it over there somewhere. Actually, no, it's over here. He gave me a signed copy of his book, Touching Evil, and I saw the hardcover versions of that and the trade paperback versions he has of those, the collected editions, at that chain. And that's the one I've known him for over 30 years. So he moved in down the block back in, like, I don't know, 1990, 91 or whatnot. And then we both went to the same schools for a long period of time through high school and stuff like that. And I was just great to reconnect with him back then. And entire 2 volumes of collected editions now. So you can go online. I'll put some links below to check out his stuff. If you want to order it or check it out or find out other things about it, definitely look it up. But I went to the Amazing Fantasy one. It's like, it's really fun. It was really kind of good. It really had a positive atmosphere, the whole thing. And I grabbed up some Nightwing stuff. I love Dick Grayson. I love Nightwing. I love these great things. First thing I did read through was I feel like Nightwing Annual. It's kind of easier to maybe kind of jump into. Ended up being like 3 different stories packed in this whole thing. They're not too consequential, but one of them kind of ties more into apparently what big storylines were going on at the time in the Nightwing comics or whatnot. But still, it was enough of like more like kind of an origin of the villain that was involved with that storyline. So it still maintained a certain air of like being a complete story within itself to a certain degree. So it's kind of nice. There's another story in here that was a little bit more kind of like more just like a fun fluff type of thing. Just kind of have a little bit of fun things here and there. But the one I really liked was the final issue in the story here, where Nightwing has a story with John Kent, the son of Superman, Kal-El, and I really liked it. Just the fact that John Kent's coming to Dick Grayson with a certain problem that he had fighting a guy where he really kind of hurts someone, and he's kind of want to follow in his father's footsteps. So like, I don't want to be someone that hurts people, and he wants to talk with Dick Grayson because he knows Dick's style. He knows his sort of sensibilities and whatnot. And he has him train him to a certain degree. It's a nice little story that shows a lot of character. And I had not read anything with the John Kent character, but I've been seeing stuff from writer Tom Taylor on Twitter, whatnot, and he's sharing a lot of things with his Adventures of Superman John Kent storyline, and everyone's saying a lot of great things about this thing. So I'm kind of thinking about it. Apparently, it's part of a. I think I heard someone saying it was a 6-issue miniseries. So I'm kind of tempted to check it out. I'm kind of tempted to that degree. So, like I said, I have very little information about this entire character in terms of what he's been through and all that type of stuff. I've looked up a little bit of stuff on the origins, not a whole lot, but seems interesting. I might throw that on my pile when I go back to a store or whatnot to grab a few things here and there. But this I absolutely loved reading this. Volume 1, Better Than Batman. This is from the Rebirth storyline they did around 2016 or so. I love this thing so much. I read this thing completely, and I enjoyed myself thoroughly entertained. That had all the right things I wanted from a Dick Grayson storyline. Had that wit of the character, that sort of upbeat nature, that kind of character who has resolved the issues of his past to a certain degree. He's gotten past the trauma. He's kind of grown out of things, and very much the commentary and the whole thing of not doing it the same way Batman does it. Kind of going off to a certain degree and having Dick Grayson constantly become his own man, step up beyond that entire shadow of being the guy, Batman's sidekick, and just showing what his mentality is, how he deals with certain things, how he goes about certain storylines and plot lines, stuff like that, how he develops on the whole thing. And this thing is just absolutely fantastic. I love this thing. It's from writer Tim Seeley. It's got Javier Fernandez doing artwork along with Chris Sotomayor. I thought the artwork in this thing looked fantastic. I love the storyline. It's got Bruce Wayne in it. It's got Damian Wayne in it. It's got Batgirl in it. Barbara Gordon. It's got all these great things. You gotta, for me, for optimal Dick Grayson storyline, I've got to have some Barbara Gordon there. I just know that relationship between two characters is so fantastic. It's got great chemistry in those characters, and they wrote the dialogue so wonderfully in this whole thing. Great storyline where he's coming back after he just kind of regained his sort of secret identity through weirdo comic book means where people's memories got wiped. Weird type of things. But anyway, he's reclaimed his secret identity. He's been off being like a secret agent for like the last whatever point in time, whatnot. But now he's back being Dick Grayson as Nightwing, reclaiming things for like the Parliament of Owls, which is kind of an offshoot from the Court of Owls type of things, and things in that regard. So it was kind of good that I read the Scott Snyder thing, so I can kind of reintroduce myself to those concepts, kind of move it into this thing, and dealing with this new character called the Raptor, who was very, very, very well written in the whole thing. I really liked everything they did with it, because I had this, he's almost a mirror of Dick Grayson. He's got similar type of wit, certain type of things of how he kind of like goes about sort of like winging it to a certain degree, night winging it, stuff like that, and kind of like going by the seat of his pants, and kind of improvisational how he deals with things. Like, very interesting character that wrote the thing that was very entertaining and very compelling in the entire storyline. I liked the whole thing completely. Everything was so well done. It was so snappy. It was quick. It was very much action-packed. A little bit of intrigue here and there. Just like all these things really well put together. So I ordered Volume 2, which is called Back to Bloodhaven. So I ordered that off of a thing on eBay. It's about $10. Hasn't shipped yet. So it might be another week or so before I grab it. But I was so thoroughly goddamn impressed and pleased with this whole thing. Some of the best money I ever spent on a comic book property. Just wonderful. I love all the art in this whole thing. The cover art they show in this whole thing. Everything just looks fantastic. Perfectly well done. I absolutely recommend the whole thing. And the last thing I grabbed up was something when I did the review for the third Conjuring film about a year ago, there was a hardcover version, collected edition, coming out of the comic book series they did as a prelude type of thing to the story in that film. Unfortunately, at the time, I kind of grabbed it. It was about $25 or so, and then I kind of thought differently about it, so I kind of returned it back to Amazon. But I bought it again. And this was about $10 cheaper now, so that was a bit more of a makeout for me. So about $14, $15 was a bit more reasonable to me on that regard. I did enjoy it. I just finished reading it today, and I thought, especially when I decided, like, okay, I'm going to listen to the score for the film while I'm reading this, give myself a little extra mood and atmosphere to kind of tap into certain things. That really was very effective. I thought it was a really nice thing. If you like the film, this is nice to grab. So right now, I think on Amazon it's about the same price, about $14.99. And it's got some, I didn't read through the backup stories because there's kind of like Tales from the Artifact Room that the Warrens had, stuff like that, sort of built into it. So I haven't read through that, but I read through the main arc, and I thought it was very effective. Very effective setting up to the certain storyline with the girls in the forest and whatnot in the entire film, where there's a certain mystery going on in that regard. It's tied into the larger storyline with the occultists, stuff like that. So I liked it. They don't have a trade paperback out, but for $14.99, I think it's a good deal right now. If you're very much interested in it, if you saw the film, you enjoyed it, and you're interested in the comics, this is nice. I think this is a nice piece of work. If I ever go back into the film, want to watch it or whatnot, I might tap into this again. And of course, like I said, it's a hardcover edition. Really don't have any other ones, but the fact that it was not in a trade paperback yet was just the fact of, yeah, okay, I'll just drop the money on it, and the regular hardcover thing here, and then the wraparound in that regard. So it's nice. It's got some really creepy artwork and very good type of things. A little disappointed that it was just kind of like the regular kind of matte paper in this whole thing, not like the glossy stuff that I have in the Nightwing one, but I would say like I'd expect the Nightwing one to sell much stronger than this and stuff like that. So here and there everywhere, or maybe just a stylistic choice in that regard or whatnot, but all this stuff I've really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed reading all this stuff in that regard. It just rekindled the entire thing with me, and I started listening a little bit back to the podcast I listened to back in the day called Raging Bullets, which covers all DC type of things. Sean and Jim and the whole thing are really fantastic. They've been doing that thing for like 15 years. Maintain the same two guys doing the whole thing for that long is absolutely commendable and fantastic. They're just as enthusiastic as ever today. I listened to stuff from back in the day because I re-listened to their entire thing covering the Knight's Fall storyline. And then I listened to stuff they had doing today, and it's like, they sound exactly the same. There's not a day didn't feel like there was a day passed or they never got worn out or anything. They're still enthusiastic talking about comics today, and that just added so many other things. So I just was very much enthusiastic on that regard, listening to those guys, getting back in all this type of stuff. I did go through and weed out some things in my collection, because there are points in time where I just go to the shop and just grab stuff that looked interesting and maybe read it once, and then I never grabbed successive issues or the stuff, the rest of the arc or whatnot. So I went through and weeded through all the stuff that felt like this is just a one-off comic that doesn't have follow-up issues in my collection, or there's maybe like sporadic parts of it here and there. And I was like, okay, I'll just sell that off to half-price books and stuff like that. There was a lot of Marvel ones. I'm much more of a DC guy, but I still kept some X Factors, some X-Force stuff, some X-Men, Wolverine. I have a Daredevil one. I've got a Gambit one. A nice little mini-series type of things for those, and I've got some. I didn't keep my Spider-Man stuff because a lot of stuff that was kind of sporadic issues here and there, and some of it was 90s stuff like Clone Saga crap that really don't want to sit through it or read through or anything like that. But here and there and everywhere. So I had that. I've got a lot of Spawn comics. I've got a lot of Spawn comics. Like a third of one of these boxes I bought is nothing but Spawn comics. And they kind of fall off a little bit here and there. There's a lot of disconnected timeline in that regard, but I wasn't going to go through and try to figure things out at this point in time. I'll just leave them there. Because this all started about 31 years ago, where one of my grandmas, she was doing stuff on like Home Shopping Network and QVC, stuff like that, and she thought I was already into comics, so she bought this entire big comic book box or whatnot, which had like the debut issues from Image Comics like Spawn and Youngblood and a couple other sporadic issues here and there. I think there was like a Robin comic, a couple of Batman, a Superman and whatnot. And that's really how I started into everything. I just had this entire box that she gave me, and eventually got into things here and there, and it's kind of gone up and down, back and forth, pause here and there. I hadn't stepped inside a comic book store since like 2012 or something like that. And I went back right into one of the same old chain and whatnot. A couple of weeks ago, I drove back down to where I used to work or whatnot. There's one down the road from there. I went back in there. That's where I found the one Batman comic to fill up the face-to-face storyline. And it was just I just felt so good just being back inside the place. It was such a great vibe overall. I started looking at things, trying to figure out if there's anything I wanted to grab right now, but the stuff is kind of like right in the middle of different storylines here and there with like Nightwing and Batman. Batman's in this kind of weird sort of like alternate universe sort of storyline in his main comic here and there. I don't know about going into that, but I know there's I think they're starting new stuff with Nightwing. They're going to start up the Titans again, where like the Justice League is now kind of like disbanded after this kind of like Dark Crisis event or whatnot. And now the Titans are going to be kind of like the premier team or whatnot. So that's starting up, I think, in May or June. So I'm kind of interested to kind of catch up on some Nightwing stuff. I want to grab the stuff from Tom Taylor, his first volume of this thing called Leaping into Light. It's getting close to kind of ordering it, but I feel like maybe I'll step off from ordering too many things at one time, because I still have to get through all the stuff from all the Death of the Family stuff. So I don't want to pile up too many things, kind of like get overwhelmed and like have stuff sit around I'm not reading. So I want to get through a couple things, then I'll kind of get up on different things. But Tom Taylor's the one working on that John Kent thing. He's working on the Nightwing stuff. I think he's going to be working on the Titan stuff and here and there. Blanking out, but he signed an exclusive contract with DC, so he's working a lot with them right now. And they have this great, really interesting sort of summer crossover storyline that's going to start up called Night Terrors. I think that's what it's called. Something else like that. But it looks really cool. It's a tinge of horror into like the Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman comics, stuff like that. It looks really interesting. I really want to get up on this thing. Really want to jump on this when it starts up. So they're going to have free comic book day preview on it, which free comic book day is on May 6th, it's Saturday. So I'm definitely going to be out at a comic shop on that day, grab up some stuff, and just cool stuff. I really want to get into stuff again. So we're going to go some trades right now to kind of get full story arcs so they get into things, but eventually I'll start into probably a little bit more monthly issues, stuff like that, to kind of get more into things here and there. But I'm really excited now. I was feeling really, really good Sunday and Monday or whatnot when I decided to take these days off, indulge in the comic stuff, watch Top Gun Maverick, watch a little bit of Transformers the movie because I got a little hung up on things after finding that trade paperback collected edition. But here and there and everywhere, it's like I just was feeling so just positive. I went back to work. I felt so much better than I have recently. It was just like just taking the time to just really kind of just let things go and kind of have some time to myself and just catch up on certain things and just find some time to just be happy. I just hadn't been that happy. I hadn't been smiling as much as I had in those 2 days where I was reading through these comics and various other things. They were just really doing a great thing for me. So I'm very enthusiastic getting into these things right now. So I am thinking about doing at least a monthly video just talking about what I'm reading in comics. So a lot of things you're seeing in this sort of section of the video here will be kind of refined and kind of worked into a kind of like a monthly video where I can just talk about that stuff on that regard and catch up with what I'm reading, what I'm recommending, stuff like that. So I think that's kind of a nice thing to kind of go for. I think I'm very enthusiastic to kind of talk about that stuff, so I think it'll be a little bit more relevant when I'm talking about more current comics, but I'll certainly be talking about whatever it is that I find interesting. So probably jump into those Transformers Armada stuff and some other things here and there. So I've still got a lot of Batman stuff. I've got this entire run. I mentioned in the Dark Knight Rises thing, but I have this entire run that was, I think it was about 2001 or something else like that, 2000 or so, where it was like Bruce Wayne fugitive, Bruce Wayne murderer type of thing, and it's probably like this thick. Probably like a good 3-4 inches thick of comics. I don't know if I'll ever get back through them again, but it was like a 6-month storyline that went through like every single Batman family title. Everything. Every single thing. It's just like, wow, in that regard. But here and there and everywhere. So I'm definitely itching on jumping into a couple other things on DC's end of things. I'm probably see where other things land. I haven't been into Marvel Comics in an extremely long time. I stopped reading them around the Civil War storyline because I don't like this storyline at all. It really sucks. And the point in time, that whole thing where Peter Parker reveals his identity to everyone as Spider-Man, the instant I read that. They're going to retcon this within a year. And it only took about 6 months to actually do it. And that's the exact point where I stopped reading Marvel Comics, was like, this is just a shock at all type of moment in the entire comics to get people just like, oh, whoa, a big type of thing. And then you're just going to repeal it, and you're just going to go back on it within a couple of months, within a year or something like that, and you're just going to say, oh, that was just nothing. And they did that. And it just felt very Marvel Comics to me. The stuff I'd read before and stuff I looked at before, it just completely soured me on reading Marvel Comics at that point in time. And I'm not hearing the best of things here and there, but some people have different opinions on certain things. But my love of characters is very much in DC with Batman, Nightwing. I've read some Green Arrow, some Green Lantern stuff in the past, certainly some Superman stuff here and there. Justice League as well, so I'm kind of all over the board in that regard. So So good stuff. So I'll definitely be talking more about that stuff every month or so. And again, you can look up for commentaries from Happy Death Day and Leprechaun soon. We'll probably do the Leprechaun one first because St. Patrick's Day is coming up sooner. Stuff like that. So this is all Steve's idea. If you have a problem with it, it's Steve's idea. So there's that, and the AVP thing will be up sometime later in the weekend. Hopefully the thing will go as it's been, where they're just leaving it alone and just let it expire, and it'll go and I'll make a release the claim, and I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. So guys, thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.